We've all got scars, some on the outside and some on the inside. But we can't be defined by our scars. I've spoken with some extraordinary people about how they've become empowered by their scars. This is I've Got Scars, baby.
All right. So I am so excited right now to have my next guest. Oh my goodness, Miss Sita Lewis. I am so excited. She is an incredible entrepreneur, and she is the owner, the founder creator of Miracle Buttercream. And yeah, she is in the building. Okay. And today we are going to talk about starting over at 50.
Yes.
And okay, first of all, let me just say, when we did our pre-interview, I was talking to you and I was just like listening to your story. I'm like, and then you say something else, and I'm like, oh, whoa, it was just so many different elements.
Save it for the interview.
Man, I was like, hold on. We can't tell it all right now. And so, I don't want to make this interview longer, like 3 hours long, but it's one of those things where you have a story to tell. And I'm so glad that you are here to tell it to us today.
Thank you so much, Audra. And I am super excited to be amongst some of the amazing people that you've had on I've Got Scars, baby. I love your interviews. I feel honored and excited to tell my story. And let's just get started.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And yes, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and get started. I need to know what was going on with your life. What did your life look like prior to 50? What was going on? Because, I mean, you have, and I just want to, from your dad and growing up with what's going on with your dad to your career in TV. So all of the stuff, what was going on?
So I'm going to make a long story not that long. I'm going to try to make it too long. But we did talk about some really interesting things about my life. I grew up in a household, it was 8 of us. And it wasn't always 8 of us. It started off with I had a smaller family. It was my mom, my 2 brothers, and my dad. And when I was 12 years old, my mom was murdered. And that was one of the most traumatic things that I think any 12-year-old could ever really experience. So, imagine if you take yourself back to 12 years old, when you think of your mother, you think of somebody that if you lost that person, you would be lost yourself. That's how I always internalized my relationship with my mother, because it was a good relationship. And then she was only 31 years old. I was 12 years old, and instantly she was just gone. Okay. And so, I went through the process of trying to process that as a little girl, and my mom was Italian and my dad was Black. So I didn't even know my Italian side. Yeah. That was for traumatic reasons as well. My mother's family disowned her. It was actually her father, but they disowned her for marrying my dad, who was a Black man. And back in the 60s, when I was born, Blacks and Italians, that was not a thing, And so when the races came together like that, it caused a lot of controversy in the community, and especially in her household. So I didn't, I couldn't retreat to my mom's side of the family. I only had my dad's side of the family. And then I was the only girl. So my dad kind of like put me in this role to just, just be that kind of woman that can do anything, cook, clean, be educated. And so I was on that path after I lost my mom. And then I had a stepmother come into the picture, and she had a son, and then she had a son with my dad. And then my dad was raising my cousin, Sean. So it was 5 boys and me and 2 parents. So I was the only girl, child-wise, in the crew. And so that gave me I think it gave me a little bit of an advantage, because my dad was always, you got the kitchen, you got this, you got that. So I had to have like creativity in the responsibilities that I was given.
Yeah.
Then my stepmother owned a beauty salon. So at 13, I think 14, 15, 16, and 17, I worked part-time at the beauty salon. And I didn't even want to work at the beauty salon, but my dad like forced me into it. Said, you know, you got to learn some entrepreneurial skills because he was an entrepreneur. My stepmother is an entrepreneur, but I don't want to be doing hair. And, you know, I didn't realize it was the working at the salon that was teaching me things that I would learn way after, you know, after 50 years old.
Yeah.
So played a huge part in my story. And I ended up going to college, coming out of college, and I went straight into television. I was a production assistant, associate producer, and then finally producer for many shows. I worked for BET for almost 15 years. I worked for Telepictures. I worked for King World Productions. I worked for Ambush Makeover. It was a lot of syndicated shows. I worked for Showtime at the Apollo. So I had not an entrepreneurial background myself.
Yeah.
I had a production and entertainment. I even went into the music business for a little bit of time. I was traveling with a female rap group that I got signed to Def Jam. So my life was exciting, but it was still a lot of tragedies along the way. You know, that when I think of the title of your podcast, I think if anybody has lived any life, they've got some scars.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It might not be the scars that you can actually see, you know, because we know that you have some physical scars, but we know that the scars that hurt the most are the emotional scars and the different things that we go through. So of course, people thought that my life was just such a fairy tale growing up in a household.
Now, yeah, let's talk about that part, the fairy tale of growing up because of the work that your father did. Now, your father wasn't just, you know, going and you know, doing construction. You know what I'm saying? Like you grew up around celebrities.
He was an entrepreneur, and he was in the boxing industry, and he became a legendary boxing promoter. His name was Butch Lewis. He was in the rankings of Don King, Bob Arum, Rock Newman. They were all, you know, in that same lineup, in that same time frame. Matter of fact, my dad promoted many fights as a duo with Don King. They called themselves the Dynamic Duo. So I was constantly involved in going to Las Vegas and going to Los Angeles and going to award shows and you know, Super Bowls and All-Star weekends. And then my dad got into the producing TV shows and movies. He became executive producer of. So people people really looked at my life like, oh, you know, like she doesn't know anything about struggle. She doesn't know what it means to really struggle. And one thing that I am so thankful and grateful for was the type of entrepreneur that my dad was the type that he didn't get money because some big check came because he was an athlete. He didn't get big money because he went to college and became a doctor and had his own practice. He literally built his business brick by brick and with no college education and nobody giving him anything. And he just always felt like if you have a can-do attitude, and you have faith in God, that's really all that you need. So he instilled in us, I mean, things that me and my brothers never thought would actually help us later on in life. And now that I'm older, it's like I'm constantly hearing my dad's voice, you know, repeating in my head the things that he used to say. You know, I used to call him and I'd say, "What you doing, Dad?" And he would say, spinning plates, spinning plates. And I would be like, what does that mean, spinning plates? You know, and what he was saying was, I'm doing so many things. I'm trying to keep these plates from dropping to the ground, because if one thing goes wrong, it's all going to crash, you know? And so he was what you call a hustler. He wasn't a con artist. There's a difference between a hustler and a con artist. And he used to make that clear. He came through with his commitments, and he hustled to get everything that he's gotten. So I hear things like prepare for war in times of peace. These are things that he was teaching me as a kid. Be prepared in life, because you don't know what's coming. You know, you have to set yourself up. If an opportunity comes and you're not ready, you're going to miss the opportunity.
Absolutely.
So all of a sudden, fast forward, I was 43 years old, and I always had this strong tower of a father to lean on, to be like a safety net, to be an advisor, a counselor. And then all of a sudden, he turned 65 years old. He had a huge party for himself. I mean, everybody you could think of, from Denzel Washington to Lenny Kravitz, Judge Greg Mathis, the OJs performed, you name it. He gave himself this party, and 30 days later, he had a massive heart attack and he passed away.
Oh my God.
And it was so traumatic for me, because it was like, it was a certain lifestyle. I wasn't even thinking about the lifestyle when he passed away. That was something that I had to actually, you know, as time went on, I realized what my life was then is not now. You know, I was missing him and missing the emotional tie that I had to this person. Even though I said that I put my faith in God, really, as long as I had my dad there, it was like I had this thing, this safety net that was like God, like a God to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And thank God for God.
Right. So in this moment, you're at this place. I would imagine it almost feels like a high, in a sense, where it's like life is amazing.
Yeah.
Like dad and I are super close. I'm getting to be around all these celebrities. I'm producing. You're in flow.
Yeah. It was,
and then automatically, like, bam, it
right.
stops.
I mean, when I say stops, I'm talking about, you know, when we travel places, we would travel on private jets. He would say, oh, meet me over at the Teterboro airport and I'll pick you guys up on the way to LA for the such and such award show. You know, so when those award shows and different things came around again, that's when I started to realize, okay, I'm not going to those places anymore. I'm not, like, he was also a ringleader of his own friends. They called themselves the Crew. And it was Wesley Snipes, Denzel Washington, Judge Greg Mathis, Steve Harvey, like all these types of names of Black men who used to come together. My dad was the ringleader and they were like his best friends.
Yeah.
Without him, it seemed like the group just kind of started going their own way. And especially with his children, me being one of them, and I was the apple of my dad's eye because I was the only girl. And it was like he was raising me to be his only son. You know, he had higher expectations for me than I think he had of my brothers. And so I always felt like I don't want to let him down. And then we were faced with, when I tell you my dad was the type of person that handled his business, that was one of his sayings. You don't have fun unless you took care of your business first. You handle your business first. That's a priority. So he always handled his business in life, but there was a couple of things that he couldn't control after he passed away that caused major lawsuits against his estate. So it caused my life to go into a whole different direction. Here I am trying to grieve the loss of my dad. And now I'm faced with lawsuits that are so much bigger than me. And they are threatening, you know, everything that my dad ever worked for. And these are just people who came out of the woodwork with, you know, just claims that were just so incredibly crazy that you still have to fight them. You know what I mean? And it's amazing how and what people will do for money. And so I started to have a different relationship with money. At the time, I started to and it was really what my parents, my mother too, you know, up until 12 years old, you know, my mother and my father always taught us that material things, they come and go. They really don't mean anything. We work hard so that we can be able to take care of ourselves and then hopefully pass it on to our children and their children and create some type of generational wealth that we can, you know, that we can build for ourselves. But we never got wrapped up in things, you know. I never was the type that was like, oh, I have to be driving a Bentley, or I have to be driving a Benz, or I can't drive. You know, he taught us, and my mom taught us, to love life and to enjoy life and to be appreciative and to be thankful for the things that we have. So all the things that they really gave us, not the monetary things, but the things that they really gave us were things that people couldn't take us to court for. People couldn't fight us for that. You know what I'm saying? So that all of that upbringing had to kick into fifth gear. And I literally, for a couple of years, just to pay attention to the legal letters that were just going out every day. I mean, me and my brothers even had to secure our own attorneys to fight the people that were, I mean, people were coming at us with the most ludicrous things you can imagine. I mean, the things that they wanted from my dad's estate.
Yeah.
You know, we want his Bentley. That will help solve our problem. And we were like, the Bentley? Like, what? I mean, it made it very clear about money. It was about money. So for you, I really had to.
So for you during that time, they're coming at you about the money. Were you still able to kind of live your life? Were you still able to work the way you were before? Were you still able to kind of have your own life, or was this kind of taking over?
Well, what happens when you leave television is that the minute that you leave, you are only good as your last show. And you better hope it was just on 15 minutes ago. Yeah. Because if you say, oh, you know, I'm going to come back to TV after being away for a couple of years, one, the technology has changed dramatically in 2 years. So it was hard for me to even get a job back in the television industry. So so you did a couple jobs.
So you did have a break. So when everything happened with your dad, how much time did you take off?
It was almost 2 years, 2 years and change before I actually got back into a television job. And it was kind of a downer for me because I felt like my brothers were depending on me to help with the lawsuits. So I had to be the responsible person in the family. You know how there's always that one in the family that just kind of like handles the business. And I wasn't the executor. So I wasn't the person that could make final decisions. I was just watching to see what was going on with the executor and with the other attorneys. And it was, I mean, when I tell you it's draining, because you see attorneys that are putting themselves on $60,000 a month retainers, accountants that putting themselves on $35,000 a month retainers. Now, mind you, this is the money that my dad worked for, and me and my brothers don't have access to it because the estate is in probate. So we're watching this just drain away. Mind you, I wasn't working. I wasn't bringing in an income. So I started to experience some serious financial hardships where I'm talking about, I almost lost my house. I almost I had to have my house modified, the mortgage modified, and go through this long modification process. And I was like, Lord, I was praying the whole time. And I think one of the things I said to myself was, it is not what it looks like. Don't go by what it looks like. Go by what you know that the Lord has promised you. And that was like my mantra. Like, it was even at my dad's funeral when I didn't know what was coming. And I always had, like, God as a source, but I didn't realize how much I was going to need him at that moment going forward from the funeral. And a scripture came in my mind when I was in the funeral, when I was sitting in the actual, seating of the funeral, that was Satan has meant this for evil, but God is going to turn it around for good. Anything that Satan means for evil, God is going to turn it around for your good, for those that love him and believe. And I was like, wow, Lord, why are you bringing this to my spirit at a time like this? I'm grieving, but what does this mean? And lo and behold, it let me know that there were going to be things that came at me that was going to test my faith. God was showing me that I was your provider in the past. I'm your provider now, and I'm teaching you that I'm going to be your provider for the future. It wasn't Bush Lewis, it was God. And anything that that you thought was your safety net, it was God the whole time. So I really had to just lean back and just start increasing my faith. And as I did that, and it was something that I tell everybody, when you surrender the thing that you want the most, whether it's a job, a relationship, when you surrender it back to God, and you have to understand what surrender means. Not like, I don't want that anymore. You just say, Lord, if it's what you have for me, I'll take it. But right now I'm putting it on you. I'm giving it to you. I'm moving it out of my head space. Because, if we don't get the things that we think we want in life, then we'll be all down and out, and that's not the way God wants us to look at it. He might keep us from having something for our own good, for our own protection. But I realized at that moment, everything that I surrendered to God, whether it was this house, whether it was my career, whether it was my bank account, my love relationship, everything that I've surrendered to God, he has given it to me. Greater than I could have expected it.
Yeah.
So I literally had to pull myself up by my bootstraps. I was receiving electrical assistance. I was receiving gas assistance. And a lot of people don't know this. I'm not.
So wait. We got to paint the whole picture. Hold on. Let me stop for a minute. Hold on. Because I want to make sure people are hearing what you're saying.
Yes.
You are moving from private jets, parties with Denzel and them.
Yeah.
And
I still call these people. But I didn't. I looked.
But you moving from there. But you see what I'm saying? Like, people look at that and they're like, well, you living the life. You're living the life. You have your dad. You have an amazing relationship with your dad. It all changes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like a warning. It was like, we just had this amazing 65th birthday party for my dad, and 30 days later, he's gone. And then here come the people after you and your family for the money, and now it's affecting you and your money and your lifestyle and your well-being. You're not working. Your career it has come to a standstill.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to reconcile that. Like, just so people can understand what that, just before you even get to the faith part, how does it feel inside of you to feel like everything is crumbling or falling down around you? What does that feel like?
For me, it felt lonely. It felt lonely because I felt like my dad had certain friends, even the executor himself, who I won't name, but this man was a billionaire, didn't call us and say, a couple of his friends did call, and I will call them out. Denzel Washington, he called me on a regular just to check my spiritual health, my emotional health. But there were others that they could change my situation like that. And my dad was there for all of them. But, no one really called like that. And he had another friend, Fareed Ahmed, who also called to check on me. And actually, now that I'm thinking back on it, I remember Fareed calling me and saying, "Is there anything I can do for you?" And I just broke down in tears, and I was like, "You can help me pay my mortgage this month, because I don't even know where I'm gonna get that." And he literally wired the money to my account to pay my mortgage, and then he wired it to my account another time. And then I remember him calling me just out of the blue and saying, "Is there anything that you need right now?" And it was always so hard for me to actually speak the words that I actually need something. And I remember I had this mattress that was like so old, it was sinking, literally. You know how you have those old mattresses, they don't have the springs in them anymore.
Yeah.
And they're just, my back was so messed up. And I said, "Fareed, I don't know how to say this, but I need a new bed." And he said, "I need you to go to the bed store tomorrow and call me from the store." And I called him from the store, and he told me to hand the phone to the salesperson, and he gave them his credit card number and said, "Whatever bed she wants, that's the bed I want you to get for her." And so I was like, that feeling of feeling lonely, it was like, oh, somebody's here,
Yeah.
because now I'm at a place in life where I don't have either of my parents. I don't have any children. So I'm in a space of really feeling like I have friends, of course.
Yeah.
It's a feeling of loneliness, like what you said. How are you interpreting how your life has gone from, celebrity parties and private jets and driving around in a Bentley to, calling the electric company saying, "I need you to help me with $150 a month." Like,
exactly.
it just feels like God's forgotten about you. It feels like you're feeling lonely and down, and then you're putting on a smile for other people. Not saying that I wasn't like explaining to people my situation, but I wasn't looking for anybody to give me a handout. I was really trying to come up with ways that I could just work. And one of my friends, she hooked me up and got me on, this is when I started to go back into television. She got me a casting position on America's Got Talent. So I was like, oh, I'm getting back in the game. I'm,
yes.
Check again.
I'm like, well, we working together on that show, girl.
I was doing casting. Oh, you worked on it too.
I worked on it too.
Casting from here, right here.
Oh, nice.
And then I got that casting job led me to getting a job on Love and Hip Hop New York. And so I was like, okay, so now I'm getting back in the groove.
Yeah.
I'm in a different world. I'm in casting, but
yeah.
who knows? When you need a check, you need a check.
Yeah.
So, and then I got put on to the Bethany Frankel show. When Bethany Frankel, one of the housewives of New York, own show, talk show, I literally applied on a website that I saw online. It was called entertainmentcareers.net. And I just went on there and sent my resume. And I thought it was a fluke that they called me, but you know what? Nothing is a fluke.
No.
Nothing is a fluke. They called me and they brought me in. And I remember Ed Glavin, the executive producer of the Bethany show, who was the executive producer of the Ellen show. He happened to be in the building at the exact same time I was doing my interview. And the person that was interviewing me said, oh, we have the executive producer here. He'll talk to you while he's here, blah, blah, blah. And he was a native New Yorker. He knew New Yorkers. And when he looked at my resume and he saw my dad's name, he said, wait a minute, you worked for Butch Lewis Productions. What'd you do there? And I said, well, Butch Lewis was my dad. And he was like, get out of here.
Yeah.
I remember his next question was, why are you here? I was like, why am I here? I'm trying to get a job. Please don't hold that against me.
Yeah.
He was like, Butch Lewis was my man, And so he looked at my resume and he said, but you have skills to do something bigger than this. And I said, I do, but this is what I have to do right now to pay my bills. Like, please, and they gave me a chance. So I started working on that show and they put me in charge of the culinary segments. It just so happens that I tapped into something from almost 50 years ago, which was my dad putting me in the kitchen, making me work with my stepmother to create dishes. And now all of a sudden I can use my culinary experience, even though I was a home chef, in television. And then Bethany would have her cooking shows, weekly. And my first segment that I had to produce for the Bethany Frankel show was with Martha Stewart. Now, it doesn't get more dreamy than that. I was nervous. I was sweating. I was like, who cooks for Martha? Of course, she came in, kind of pushed everybody out the way, but it gave me an up close view of what I was supposed to be doing, even though, she was kind of bossy and was like, move out our way. We're doing it our way. I got to watch firsthand a pro, and I always put it as a positive. I didn't say, oh, she pushed me out of the way, No, I was still in the room. God put me in the room. And from what, the culinary thing, I just felt like it was me. It was me. It was me. I love cooking. I would love to do something that is on for the Food Network. And so, I started talking to my girlfriend, Lisa, and I said, we got the on-air skills. We got the production skills. Why don't we just do our own cooking show, but we'll make it a cooking talk show. We'll have celebrity guests come to our kitchen and we the hottest show on TV. So I used one of my dad's relationships over at NBC to take a meeting with Peacock Productions. They took a meeting with us like that. They sat down and they listened to our pitch and they were like, we're signing y'all. We're signing y'all. We're going to get y'all. We are going to do a sizzle reel and shop your show to, the Food Network, the Cooking Channel, wherever we can get it placed. And we were high as a kite. We were running around Rockefeller Center when we came out of the meeting, right in Rock Center. And we're running around taking pictures and awesome. Then we was diagnosed with breast cancer. Like almost 30 days later. It was devastating because she found out that she had to have a double mastectomy like instantly because it was stage 3 or stage 4, something. It was so traumatic for me because it's like we finally, we have our pilot, so to speak, done. We edited that together, and now we're back at square one, and now I'm sad for her, but I'm like, what do I do with myself? Do I move on and go on without her? And it was something I had to pray about, and God just said, you have your own idea of your story, but I've already told your story. I am the author and finisher of your faith. So I've already put your whole thing in action. So you just have to go with, remember what I told you. Don't go by what it looks like. Go by what you know. And God put the scripture in my head, and I never let it go. It's Romans 8:28 says, all things work together for the good. Not some things, not a few things. All things work together for the good of them who love God and are called according to his purpose. I knew I loved God. So I said, that scripture has to pertain to me. So no matter what the trial or the challenge or the tragedy or whatever it looks like, if you love God, it's working for your good in the end. Just like that scripture that God dropped in my spirit at my dad's funeral. Satan meant it for evil, but God is going to turn it around for your good. And I just started to just get excited thinking about that. So I decided once again to apply out of nowhere to the Food Network. I said, you know what? Maybe I could just win my own TV show. There's a show called Food Network Star, and I'm going to apply for it. Thousands of people apply for it, but I'm just going to take my chances and see what happens. And I submitted some of my YouTube videos of me cooking in my kitchen, right in my little teeny tiny, like 6 foot by 10 foot kitchen, you know, ain't no fancy island or nothing like that. It was just videos that I put on YouTube. And I would say after 3 rounds of interviews for the Food Network auditions, I was actually, I got a phone call and they were like, are you sitting down? I said, yes. Like, what's going on? And they said, well, out of about 13,000 people, we picked you. And
wow.
I lost it. I said, Lord, you're going to give me. I knew that's what it was going to be, God. Thank you, Lord. Thank you. So I go, you know, so I prepare myself. I pack up. I actually had to start, I was renting out a portion of my house to be able to make the mortgage, right?
Yeah.
So I had this studio apartment on the back of my house, which turned out to be a huge blessing. And I'm bringing in like $2,000 a month off of this studio apartment. Now, mind you, we living in the New York City metropolitan area, and that's what you can get for a studio. So I knew that I can go to LA and be in this show as a contestant and still get my mortgage paid, right? So I'm still struggling, but the struggle is getting a little bit lighter, you know?
Yeah.
So I go out to LA and I'm competing on a national reality show on the Food Network with Bobby Flay and Giada De Laurentiis and Alex Guarnaschelli and all the Sonny Anderson, like all these chefs are there. And I'm not a chef. I'm just a home cook, you know?
Yeah.
I own a restaurant. I'm not a restaurateur. Like, who do I think I am? But I'm in the room, you know? I'm just in the room. And so I was like, just work it, Sita. Just do what you've been taught to do. And I didn't make it to getting my own show. You would know that by now. Eddie Jackson was the winner that season. And I left and they had Star Salvation. They brought me back and then I got kicked off again. So I said, well, you know what? I was there and I started teaching culinary. I started taking that culinary thing to a whole nother level. And I started teaching culinary in Harlem at the Harlem Children's Zone. And it was an after school program. And my girlfriend, she was with the organization at the time. And she was like, Sita, you can teach television production and cooking. And we can combine it and do like a cooking show at the school. We did so many episodes of a cooking show. We had it recorded. I was teaching the kids how to edit. And I felt like, you know, this isn't one of those glamorous TV jobs, you know?
Yeah.
It's another job to just keep money in my pocket and to put food on my table and to be a motivation and inspiration to young people and say, you know what, you can do this. So this was still prior to me turning 50. I hadn't turned 50 years old yet. But in 2016, I realized that I had students that had eczema so bad, neck, I'm talking neck, arms, and it's very prevalent in the African-American community. So I'm in Harlem, New York, teaching these inner city kids how to do television production and culinary. And I said, you know what, guys, we are not going to cook a recipe that involves food that we eat. We're going to make some food for our skin this week. I got the school to order, you know, I ordered all these natural ingredients because I used to be one of those people that were known for concoctions. Oh, if anybody can make a concoction that's going to change your hair, your skin, and your nails, or whatever, Sita can. And I said, I'm going to take my culinary skills and show them, how I cold press this skin moisturizer that I bet you is going to change their skin. Well, we did it as a Christmas project in 2016. And when I tell you, they went home for the Christmas break, came back and was like, Miss Sita, look, my eczema is gone. Look, my bumps and my rash is like, you can't even see it anymore. And I was like, wow. So the bells didn't go off. It was the school and the students and my friends who encouraged me to turn my skincare recipe into a business. And I said, I am 49 years old. Now, mind you, I was born in 1967 and it is almost 2017. That's when I was turning 50. That's 50 years later. And I was like, I don't know anything about the beauty industry, the retail industry. And I definitely don't know like the ins and outs of the skincare business. That is a saturated market and I will get eaten alive. So I said, so the school kept encouraging me, and I had this one supervisor, Alex, who said, Sita, that product right there, he said, I have every allergy and eczema known to mankind. When I use this product, I don't have any reaction to it. I've been on steroids. I've been to the hospital. I've been on all kinds of prescription drugs. None of it worked until I started using your product. At that time, my product had no name. I started then testing my product out on some of the other employees at the job, and everybody loved it. The school ended up buying a bunch of jars and giving it as gifts to the senior class, the graduating senior class, because they were that enamored over this product. And they said, Sita, I know you came here to inspire us, but I'm telling you, they were the ones behind inspiring me to start my own business at 50 years old. And I started the business in March of 2017. I turned 50 that August. By August, from the time I did my own website to the time I had to decide if I was coming back to the school for the fall semester of 2017, I was making enough money already in 3 months to stop working completely. So it was like, I can't even explain what's taken place since I started the business, how it has gone from this itty bitty baby stage to now servicing almost 3,000 repeat customers every year. And it's growing. I created a lab in my home. My home has turned into it was almost like, even when I purchased this house that I'm sitting in right now, God knew that he was going to be able to use the house to turn my story around. This room that I'm actually sitting in right now used to be the studio apartment that I was renting out. Like I said, used to, because I don't have to rent out any parts of my home anymore. So it was July 4th of this year that I could say goodbye to my last tenant and not look back and not blink about how I'm going to pay my mortgage. Because I remember one of my prayers being, Lord, I want you to bless me so that I am not just paying today's mortgage or next month's mortgage, but give me a couple of months in the can.
Yes.
I tell you, prayer works. I can pay my mortgage, not to brag about me or my product, but to brag about how prayer works. I can pay my mortgage for the next couple of years without any assistance, without even working. If I just sat back in this chair and said,
wow,
anything for 2 years, we'll be good. You know, that's how amazing God turned the story around. And now I'm actually shopping for a space in downtown Hackensack, New Jersey, for Miracle Buttercream, and I'm looking to hire more people. So hopefully by December, by Christmas, I'll be in my new space. And I've had people come up to me that didn't know me. I was at the red light, and I have a little magnet on the side of my van. I drive a Toyota Sienna minivan now, okay? And so I have a little magnet on the side of it with my logo, and I'm at the red light, and this lady pulls up to me. This just happened like 3 weeks ago. Lady pulls up next to me, she's blowing the horn. "Are you the CEO of Miracle Buttercream?" And I was like, yes, like, how are you? And so it was so funny because me and her we've actually kind of like became friends as quickly as that. We decided to share, she started following me on Instagram. We exchanged numbers on Instagram, and she's been to my house, I've been to her house. And come to find out, she was a pastor, and she prophesied to me before knowing any of what I really had going on. She just knew that I had a product out. She said, "God showed me that 2022, Miracle Buttercream is going to explode. You need to just get prepared." And what's funny is it was in me to prepare, that those words that my dad poured into me: prepare for war in times of peace. I don't have 200 orders a day. That would kill me right now based on my facility. So the reason why I'm moving out of where I am now in the lab that I built in 2018 is because I already am expecting.
Wow.
A miracle. So it's like if you build it, they will come. You sometimes you have to build things for people to see how serious you really are. Some people don't believe in that concept, but I believe in it based on I saw it happen. People would say, "Oh, that's cute. She's got her own little, her own product."
You better go ahead and show them that Miracle Buttercream. Let them see it. Uh-huh.
But they didn't probably expect it to explode, and neither did I. But I always expect God to do the unexpected.
Yeah.
People say that, prayer is just this thing that we do to make ourselves feel good. But to me, prayer is something different. Because the first year in business, I think I made $25,000. This was in 2017, but I still had the apartment and I was renting that out. And so I had that cushion that it was always bringing me $2,000 a month to add to my expenses.
Yeah.
And then I just kept saying, "Okay, Lord, I'm just gonna, just keep building on what you gave me. I'm not gonna just go out and buy, a car or whatever." I said, "Lord, I just want you to double what I made this year, next year." So the following year, I think I made $60,000, and I said, "Oh, wow, Lord, you more than doubled it." And that was my prayer. So I said, this prayer thing really does work. So that year I said, "Lord, it's always in January after my big season of sales. I say, "Lord, I want you to double it again." The very next year, after making 60, I made 120,000 in sales. And I was like, "Wow, Lord." And when I actually showed my accountant, my growth, he said, "Sita, you will reach," this was at the end of last year. He said, "You will reach $300,000 by the end of the year." And every year I surpass what is expected. And I'm just really grateful. And again, it's not to brag, it's to say that you can do anything that you put your mind to and that you ask God to show you how to do. You interviewed Tabitha Brown, and Tabitha, I tell you, she doesn't even know me. She doesn't know how inspiring she is to me, but she picked up my product one time. and she didn't have to do this. She's not a friend. She doesn't know me. And she said, this product right here, I love it. It is amazing. And she put it on her Instagram. Now, you know what happens.
Oh,
when
I already know.
they put something on their Instagram. First of all, most of the people that she talks about their stuff, they sell out. But I didn't, you know why I didn't sell out? Because I probably had $200,000 worth of product when she actually said it. So I was prepared. Like, you have to be prepared. So I didn't have to put sold out under my products. I had enough product. And mind you, this isn't a product that somebody's just shipping me and I'm selling it. I make every product by hand. My hands touch every jar. So it goes through quality control, it goes through inspection. And I mean, I have 19 different scents in 3 different sizes. I have body oils, I have beard wash, I have a men's collection. Like, it just keeps growing, you know, and I prepare myself. And so when Tabitha did that for me, it was August of 2020. I mean, I was already reading my numbers during COVID. Okay, so while the world was going crazy, everything was shut down, I'm making product. I'm running to the post office. I'm making product. I'm running to the post office. And then the end of the summer, Tabitha Brown, you know, does a sit down, and she talks about it again 2 times. I said,
wow.
You know, when you got something good, when an influencer like Tabitha Brown talks about it for the second time, about it. So I feel so grateful and honored. I tried to go see her when she had her book signing here in New York. It was completely sold out. I was begging people for tickets, Bevy Smith. I was like, please help me. Somebody help me. I just want to meet Tabitha and be able to tell her.
Let me tell you. Beautiful spirit, wonderful spirit. Like, she and I used to be in acting class together, and that's how we met years ago. Oh. And when I reached out to her, we had been Facebook friends for a number of years already and would keep in touch from on and off. But like, when everything started taking off for her, and it was just one of those things where I was just like, hey, I would just love to have your story on the show. He just said, it was right away. When I say right away, she was like, yeah, come on, what we doing it. And to me, I mean, beautiful spirit, amazing. I was so energized from her interview. And I'm energized from every interview that I have, because I mean, you all have amazing stories, and I'm just like in awe of God through you and your experience. But it's one of those things where I was just like, wow, you know, it just, you know, when something just is like, girl, I needed to hear that. And so I love that you had that experience with her, and just listening to all that you're saying. And usually I talk a whole lot more in these interviews. I'm gonna tell you, like, normally I'm saying some things, but you are laying it out in ways where it is so clear that God's hand was in every aspect and element of your life, even when it didn't look like it. And that's what I think. I really want people to hear that, and want people to pick that up from this experience, from your experience and your journey, is that sometimes things are connecting the dots. And what it sounds like to me, it's just like, and I feel like God is very masterful at connecting dots. And I've seen dots connected in my own life. But imagine the time when you were in the kitchen cooking with your stepmom, and all of that leads up to this Food Network show, and all of that is like, okay, well, let me teach the kids. And then it's like, oh, I got some eczema. Next thing you know, you have a business. Like, what are we talking about?
Who could have thunk it?
Who exactly?
Yeah, when one of the things that Tabitha said to you in the interview that she did with you, which resonates with me, was you work while you wait. Like, when I was going through all those feelings of being down and being out, I was like, what can I do? I didn't have too much pride that I wouldn't go to ShopRite and stock shelves if I had to. I will do whatever it takes to take care of myself, that's respecting myself. And one of the things that she said was that she was driving Uber.
Yeah.
Like, beautiful, spirit-filled woman, that God was going to help change the world, was driving Uber. It's a lot of people that would look down at that and say, wait a minute, you're doing DoorDash, you're doing Uber. Like, honey, if I had a car, that would have been the thing that God gave me. If Uber was going on in 2013 when I was going through all of this, honey, I would have been driving Uber. Okay, you would have seen going down the street, and I would have had one of them neon signs in the window that said Uber. You know, like,
yes,
in my game. But it was because she was being obedient to the word of God that's when he started speaking to her, when she went to the Whole Foods and she was sitting in the parking lot eating the fake bacon. And
exactly.
She was like, I should videotape this, and boom, just like that.
And I think that's absolutely the thing. And one of the things that stood out to me in that interview was that she had no desire to necessarily be a vegan food influencer. That wasn't it. That wasn't the dream, so to speak. But it's like that is what got her to where she is, and to living her dreams as an actress and all these different things. And at the same time, it's like God adds even more, because now you're not just on a screen where people see you acting and they don't know anything about you. There's no direct connection and things of that sort. It seems that it wasn't so much just about the dream of acting and being on a screen. It is about the connection between you and the people. And I thought that was just really beautiful. And what I see in your story is that it really is like, oh, yeah, no, Sita, I didn't want you to just be on the screen just making food and then people have to go home and, they're watching you. That's cool and everything. But I want you to touch jars and put your love into a product that is going to heal them. You know what I'm saying? In various ways. And I love how much that takes it to a whole other level in many ways.
Yeah, you know what you just made me think of? I'm in the grocery store last week. I'm walking through the cheese aisle looking for my favorite cheese. And I look at my phone and it's Michael Collier calling me, the comedian. So I said, so I was like, hey, Michael, what anybody else, I would have been like, oh my gosh, I'm in the grocery store. He said, Sita, this is why I'm calling you. I'm calling you to tell you that I've been using Miracle Buttercream like literally every day. He said, and not only does it moisturize my skin, but it's doing something else to my life. I can't even figure it out. My life feels better. And I was like, thank you, Lord. But you know what? It was like I needed to hear him say that, because, it's something that I pray for. It's something that I pray that not only will whatever person that touches this product, will it, heal their skin? Will it moisturize their skin? But will it heal their relationship? Will it heal their finances? Like it heal their, just the different things that people are going through. So I before it leaves me, I say, Lord, that's what I wanted to do. So for Michael to call me and say, I can't explain it. I'm telling you, I'm not making this up. I'm going to make sure that he watches this. He said, I can't explain it, but I feel better every day that I go out when I've got that Miracle Buttercream on. And I started laughing and I said, well, it's a miracle and I don't create miracles. So we know we're miracles.
Oh my goodness, girl, you about to have me over here just running around up in here with joy. Okay. That is just, again, I just have to say, I've said this, I don't know if I've actually said this on the show before, but one of the reasons I do this show, this podcast, is because honestly, I get to see how God moves in other people's lives, but it's like I get to see God through other people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a reminder of the beauty of life. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody has a story that is so phenomenal. I'm just like, I don't understand.
Right.
But it also is just a reminder of, but that's God though. That's how that worked though. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like a miracle, but it's also, that's just what it is. It's the standard and the miracle at the same time, if
Right.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I just, this is fantastic for me to just listen to. So for you, what would you say to someone who maybe they're about to turn 50, maybe they're about to turn 60, maybe they're turning 40,
Mm-hmm.
30, and they're just like, but I'm not where I want to be. I don't know about this. I had some setbacks in my life. Like, I had some dreams and aspirations, some things didn't quite work out. What would you say to that person?
I would say, here's something. God always puts people in my life that inspire me when I'm feeling at that moment. And I remember two people said something to me. One person said, Sita, just shoot the arrow. Just imagine archery. Shoot the arrow. Sometimes we're so busy trying to make sure that it hits the bullseye that we never shoot it. We're just so busy practicing, looking at the bullseye, thinking about what we have to do to prepare. Just shoot it, and wherever it lands, work from there. Work from there. And then I remember my sister-in-law, Shalia, she gave me a piece of advice. I'm a producer, so I'm a perfectionist when it comes to what I'm going to put on the screen. I want to make sure my hair is right. I want to make sure my makeup is right. But we're not living in an age where people care about all that. You just got to get it on the screen. So I remember before I did those home videos of me cooking that I didn't know was actually going to explode into all of this, I remember telling her, I'm gonna start, but I don't know when I'm gonna start because I gotta have a cameraman and I gotta have my my makeup and my clothes. And she said, Sita, get in the kitchen and turn the camera on. That's all you gotta do. People don't care what you're wearing, what your makeup looks like. They want your recipes are so good. They just want to see how you made it so they can make it too. And so now if I go back on those same videos that I posted, they're on YouTube. I had an old page called Sinfully Good TV, and that's where my videos are. And I'm reading the comments in those videos. And I mean, I had people, offering marriage proposals all the way to, oh my God, girl, I made those barbecue wings that you had, and I got a marriage proposal,
Wow.
My husband couldn't believe, so it was like, it all started from somebody saying, just start it. And then don't worry, don't try to think it through to the end, because you don't know the end. Remember, when I thought I was going on the Food Network, I thought I was coming home with my own show. I was like, oh, yeah. I've been on TV before. I've been in front of the camera, behind the camera. There's nothing but I got so nervous in front of, it was a whole different vibe when you are cooking under stress and you have cameras on you from every angle. And I mean, like, it's not fake. What's going on behind the scenes is real pressure. I've seen one of the girls that was on the season that I was on, she just up and quit. She was like, I'm done with this. We
oh, wow.
I'm going back home to my husband and my kids. And they just released her, but it was a lot of pressure. But I thought, oh, I can do this. But see, God put me in the room because that was just a step.
Yeah.
So we think like Tabitha, she saw acting. She was going to be this actress. She went out to California on a wing and a prayer. California, New York, these are places that you gotta have some smarts, some faith, something just to survive in these cities. You know what I mean? And she went out there with nothing, and probably would have never imagined becoming an Instagram, TikTok sensation of millions of followers and influencers, and just like that being a stepping stone
Yeah.
Don't discount anything. I tell my girlfriend that's going through hardships right now, I say, just take a step. My pastor has a saying that he says, right foot, left foot. You can't get to the door unless you right foot and your left foot and you put them together. So every time I get a little bit like, God, how am I going to do this? I'm moving into another realm of business where I'm going to have employees and payroll taxes and workman's compensation and all this stuff that I don't know anything about.
Yeah.
Right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot. Anything that I don't understand, I'm just going to Google. I'm going to go on YouTube. I'm going to call experts. I mean, like everything down to the barcode on my, I remember I didn't know how barcodes worked. I said, well, do you have to be in a store? Do you have to? So people were like, why are you putting barcodes on your product? Because you sell your product from home and you're selling it directly to the consumer. So it's not on the shelf. Everything I do is in preparation for what
you better say it.
So I actually studied and learned the barcode system and why and how you put it on your products. But I started by just going to Google and typing in how to make a barcode. How to do a product retail product barcode. That's it. No, you know, the only difference between you and the successful person is that they didn't give up. They didn't give up when they said, "Oh man, I went to an expo and I had, you know, $3,000 worth of product with me and it cost me $3,000 to be at the expo." Well, I sold the $3,000 worth of product, so I came home breaking even, and I probably lost a little because, you know, I still had to pay for all the packaging and all the stuff, but I gained all these customers. Like nothing is a loss, you know, and so. And then I think to myself, oh, there's too many people have their own skincare lines. Everybody has their own buttercream. But mine is different. Mine is cold pressed. Mine doesn't get melted down. Mine doesn't get whipped in a machine. Like, you know how they have the whipper, all this air that puffs it out. Do what you know to do and keep doing it and don't stop. Because there's enough, if there's, I don't know how many billions of people are in this world, 300 billion or whatever, 600 million.
Like 7 billion, something like that, yeah.
You got 0.0000001% of the market, you're a millionaire. So you're not aiming to reach everybody, but if you could just grab a corner of the market, you can do it. So whether it's starting a podcast, stop talking about starting a podcast. Turn the camera on and interview somebody.
Oh, Lord, because I'm telling you, don't overthink it. Just go ahead. For real.
Do it.
Go ahead.
Right. I started with little cans. And then I had customers in Texas saying, oh, the product is melting and it's running out of the side. And I said, well, I got to come up with a solution. Because if I'm going to sell my product to cities and it's going to be hot, in Florida and Texas and Georgia, I got to come up with a solution. Honey, this will float. I have a video of this on my Instagram floating in the ocean. Not a drop can get out of this packaging. When you open it up, I have like a inner seal, another seal. I have a rubber seal that goes to the edges, and then it clamps down. There's nothing that can get in or out of this jar. So you could wrap your silk blouse and put it in the suitcase and ain't nothing coming out on your blouse. I can guarantee you that. So like you learn as you go. When a problem arises, you come up with a solution. It took me 6 months to try to figure out how to get these custom made jars at a price that I can afford and offer them. And now I'm at the place where my brand is like a teal color. That's like part of my logo. It's part of some of the look of my products. All my jars now going forward are going to be that teal color, so that when they're sitting on your dresser and you know where I got the idea? Ananda Lewis did a video. She just does videos on Instagram, and a medium jar of Miracle Buttercream was sitting in the background. You couldn't see the logo, you couldn't see the label, you could see the jar and the color of the jar. It was the teal colored jar. She had people in the comments saying, that's that Miracle Buttercream in the background. She wasn't talking about Miracle Buttercream, but it's branding by identification. When you see a Tiffany bag, you don't have to see the word Tiffany to know that it's Tiffany.
Yeah.
You see color blue and you thought, oh, that's a Tiffany bag. So now, so that's going to be my latest thing, to come out with the brand being part of the packaging. And when people, I don't care if it's in the background of a movie, when you see that, you're going to be like, hold up, that's that Miracle Buttercream. I got that. You know?
I love it. I love it. I love it. So one more question for you. So what is one thing that you feel like you have learned on this journey, on your entrepreneurship journey, life journey, that you're like, this is something, wow, this is something that I've embodied. This is my thing. This is what I'm holding on to. What is that one thing that you've held on to?
So the minute that you said that, and that's not something that you asked me in the pre-interview. So this is something that's coming straight from my heart. You cannot compare your journey to anybody else's. Your story is what you hold on to. Your story, you can look at somebody else on Instagram or on TikTok or on their website and say, hey, that girl is 22 years old and she just said that she sold out and she was showing her numbers clocking $1 million in 20 minutes. Or, you know, Super Scent, the girl who owns Crayon Box, she can mention one new product and boom, it's sold out. And then I remember when I first started, I was always saying, well, what am I doing that you know, and God said, your story is not their story. If you had $1 million in sales today, it would wipe out your whole business. That's not what you're set up for yet. You just do what I told you to do. So what I hold on to is that my story and my journey is unique to me.
Yeah.
What God is going to do for me, nobody else can have. It's already been written. Like I said in the beginning, it's already been written what he has for me. So my ingredients are on the jar. We're not hiding nothing. Somebody could be allergic to something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got people that are selling products. You go to their website, you don't even know what's in the product. Everything that's in this product is listed on here. It's not hidden. What God has for me is for Mama Sita. It's not for someone else, you know?
Yeah.
And so I even have a young lady who, I don't know her, I've never spoken to her, but she started her own all natural skincare products. And she said, can you be my mentor? Now, a lot of people be like, why would I want to be your mentor? I'm doing this, you're doing the same thing I'm doing. I'm not trying to purposely create competition for myself. I can't create competition. There is no competition. What God has for me has my name on it already. He formed me in my mother's womb. He knew me like he knew Magdalene. He knew when we don't know ourselves, he knows us. He knows every piece of hair, even the ones that I lose on my head. Okay.
Yes.
The ones that I add, he knows about those too. So
wow.
For him to know us, I mean, how it should bring tears to everybody's eyes, because this is the Almighty with everything that's going on in the world. He knows you. Yeah. He knows your story. Your story is already. That's all you have to do is walk it out and understand that it's a gift. Life is a gift, you know? And so that lady, she doesn't even know, but I'll buy a course. I buy a course, I send it to her because I know she's going to need that coming soon. She might not have the money to buy the course, but I just bought the course. You know? So I send her a link so she could get on the course and learn the course too. Or I'll send her, oh, these are the expos that I started with for sisters only. Essence Festival. I sold out at Essence Festival my first year. This is how you prepare for Essence Festival. Make sure you go down there with at least $20,000 worth of product. Because if you have a good product, I promise you, you will come home with nothing but some pre-orders because you sold out. And that's exactly what happened to me. Shopify, which is where my website is, which is where my store is planted. Shopify called me a couple months ago, and they said, Sita, so this is what in business is conversion, meaning when someone comes to your website, we can track that they were there. But if they buy something, we can track that they bought something. So say, for instance, I had 50,000 visitors to my website this month, and let's say 5% of them made a purchase, right? To me, I'm like, oh my gosh, 5%, that's so little. In order for me to make real money, the numbers need to be higher. That's my ignorance that's talking. So Shopify calls me and they say, Sita, we're noticing that your conversion rate is like, it's really high. What are you doing to get this conversion rate? And I said, wow, Shopify is calling me, asking me what I do. And I really didn't put a lot of money into advertising yet. But what I did tell them is I said, I started with a really good product that it's not a gimmick. It actually helps your psoriasis. My aunt had a burn on her arm, and she's dark skinned, and the burn was like the color of this black on my shirt. And it had been there almost her whole life. She started using my product, and I mean, every day. It took months, 6 months. She was like, Sita, I don't even see that anymore. It's gone.
Wow.
That's why people come back.
Huh.
Because the product works.
Wow.
People had itchy scalp, legs that couldn't take certain fragrances or it broke them out. You know, I have all natural, which has nothing in it for the people who have extra sensitive skin. And they say things like, I had rosacea my whole life. I put and my product, a little bit goes a long way. I put like 3 drops of this on my cheeks at night, and I just rub it in. And all races, we're talking white, Asian, black, you name it, Indian, they've used my product and they talk about the results the same.
Yeah.
So this isn't a product just for African American. We can use the butters more so than probably any other race, because that's the kind of moisturizer that we need for our skin. But believe me, some of my biggest customers are other races outside of the African American community. So that makes me happy that it's just because it's a good product.
It's a great product.
And
yeah.
I'm thankful for that. Like, God just dropped the recipe on me years ago, way before. I remember I was walking through Harlem, and I would collect mango butter from this guy selling it on this corner, and shea butter from this guy over here, and on the corner of 125th and St. Nicholas has all the butters, and I'm just trying stuff out. But I never was doing it to create a product. I created it because I was broke and I couldn't afford my Carol's Daughter product anymore. And out of necessity, I started, grinding them up myself. And I said, and then one day I was blessed enough to sit in the founder, Carol's daughter, Lisa Price, sit in her bedroom. This is my bedroom we're sitting in, but I sat in her bedroom and had a meeting because her leg was, she had surgery on her foot. She couldn't leave the house. She took a meeting with me anyway. Another great inspiration, another door that God opened up. And she sat and listened to me talk about where I was headed, what I was going to do with my product. And she called me and she said, Sita, a lot of people come to me and they meet with me and they talk about their dreams of doing the things that I've done.
Yeah.
But you have the it factor. You're going to be a success story. And that, just that fire that came from Lisa Price, you know, that started Carol in the 90s and then sold her company to L'Oreal in 2014. Like that alone was just another boost. And as long as you keep going, you're going to come in contact with people that just hold you up, build you up. Forget about the people that doubt you. Stick around the people that hold you up and build you up.
I love it. And you are a far cry from barely being able to pay that mortgage. You are a far cry from, I'm just trying to make it. And if you would have stopped in the just trying to make it phase, you wouldn't be where you are. So I just want to say, I am so excited you have been on the show. So how can people find your amazing Miracle Buttercream? How can they find you? Where you want to send them?
Make it as simple as possible. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm not on TikTok yet. I'm going to try, but the name is always the same, at Miracle Buttercream. If you Google Miracle Buttercream, you're going to find me. Sita Lewis is my own personal Instagram page. So you can always follow Sita Lewis, SITALEWIS. But miraclebuttercream.com is where you can go and find the products. And if anybody wants to make a purchase and they want a discount for the first time 15 is the discount code. You can use it one time with a unique email address and it'll give you 15% off your entire cart. So go to Miracle Buttercream.
You better come on now. You better come on now. And I think Miss Price is right. She like, yeah, you got something special because you have the energy, you have the drive, you have the faith, and you have the product that is actually it's helping people on deeper levels. And you know, Michael Collier is reaching out to you like, look, I need you to understand this is more than just something for my elbows. You know, I think it's fantastic. I'm so grateful to have had you on the show. What an amazing blessing. Your story has really, like, I'm just sitting here like, oh Lord, what am I gonna get into? Like, that's how I'm feeling. I'm like, let me go and do some amazing things. Like, that's how I'm feeling right now.
Doing amazing things. The key is just to keep doing it. And I truly, truly appreciate you. Honor you. I feel honored to be here for having me on the show. And like Tabitha Brown, when somebody calls me, I can make an answer just like that. Yes, the answer is yes.
Man, it's amazing. You are amazing. Thank you for pushing through. And that's why you're here, because you persevere through the dark times, and you are here, and I just want to thank you for being a part of this show.
Thank you.
All right.